It's not unintentional, that my cover slide has a dinosaur. But I worry, that my profession, the one I love so dearly, appears, to be going, to the dogs. I worry, that our relevance in the marketplace, right, and also in the C-suite, for instance, is diminishing, in significance. I worry, that when the important meetings are called and when big decisions, are made, I'm not usually at the center, of that whole process. So one of the things I think we can all align on is that the marketplace, has significantly, changed. Okay? Consumer, very enlightened. They no longer can be pushed around. The competition is fierce. You have the traditional players and you have the not so traditional players. We've got digital disruptors, guys, who own nothing, but who are significant players, right, in their respective spaces. We're seeing an increasing commoditization, of most products. Today I want to buy something, just Google it. And you'll get, so I don't really need you and your brand, for instance. I went to brands in those days for trust and quality. Today, it's actually they call it a tyranny of the mob, when it's what the reviews say, for instance. And woe betide you if you miss the trick once and they hit you. We're also seeing a tough and worsening economy. So it's getting more and more difficult for the guy who is going to pay, and the guy is now willing to say, well, I like brown Coke, but I will drink Biggie. Okay? And obviously, COVID hit us. And all of a sudden, everything changed. Even people who were reluctant to use mobile phones and do digital stuff, for instance, all of a sudden embraced, this new, thing. I think the point we raise here is, if this is where what has happened in the last, few years, the old playbook that I learned as brand manager many, many years ago in Coke, for instance, that playbook won't work. It can't work, and it belongs, to the dark ages. The market has changed, and it's not going to go back. Okay, 3 major things, have basically changed the world. One of them is the internet. The second is the mobile phone, right? And the third is social media. And because of these forces, the playing field has been leveled. My son has this thing, he's 20 years old, he has this stuff on, he's watching a match and there's a commentary and analysis going on. It looks like a dashboard of a plane. So what's going on here? But these guys, are in, they're in a different world completely. We buy, outdoor. And I always tell myself, just look into cars these days. Say for the guy who is driving, everybody else is like this. I bought all sorts of different gadgets because of my neck. I must check what I have to learn how to pronounce Twitter. They call it Twitter. You have to call it well, though. You don't call it wrong. It is addictive. So, and that's the reality, today. And because of this, it has not only changed how we buy media and how we reach our consumers, it's also changed the power that these guys have. You all know this familiar refrain, the customer is king. In my days in Coke, the customer was king. But guess what? He had jack power. He couldn't do nothing. We tell this very famous story. In those days when you find a substance or whatever, cockroach or whatever, in a bottle of any of our beverages, the only way you could get redress was to take it to the plant, and to go and complain. Okay? And if you open it, God forbid, there's no case. Because as far as we're concerned, you put it in there. And we've had instances, where, this stuff happens, bottle's not cleaned properly, somebody wasn't paying attention, and it happens. So this guy takes a bottle of Fanta, to the plant, and obviously, the plant guy says, yeah, can I see it? You give it to me. Give it to me. Give it to me. I dropped it. Hey, sorry. Oh. Don't worry, we'll give you 2 cases. Okay? So he broke the bottle, intentionally. Those tricks, you can't do them now. The guys will see it, they will bring out the phone, and they will do a recording. Then they will post it before they come and meet you. Or before you go and look for them. Okay? And they give you a big bill. So, the difference now, right, is the customer is king, but today he knows it. Marketing professionals, in my view, are still living in the past. Okay? Us, as brand managers, marketing directors, chief marketing officers, for instance, and the agencies that support us are all still living in the past. Everybody has an influencer or a brand ambassador. And I'm saying, okay, the way in which I was taught, and pardon me if maybe it has changed, but I haven't read it anywhere. But the way in which we did this in the past was my brand stands for something, okay? It has a personality, it has all of those, equities. And I say, well, this person typifies what my brand stands for. Yes. And because of that, this guy is my ambassador. Today, is the guy popular? Yes. How many followers? Once he's how many followers? Okay, now becomes an ambassador. I'm saying, well, so what does Burna Boy, have to do with your brand? And, why is Davido, who does this, for instance, and who has this lifestyle? Why is he even Portable? Come on, guys, what's going on? What are we, what's wrong with us, for Christ's sakes? We got high on our own supply. That's what happened. We have become lovers of great art campaigns. We like awards. In fact, sometimes I think we actually need actively pay for those awards so we can, win them. We love buzzwords. I remember when I got to Ghana, I was marketing director for Airtel, and I had this young team of nice Ghanaian, about 11 of them in my team. So I called them into my office for a meeting one day. I said, look, guys, what did you study? Chemistry, English, engineering, blah, blah, blah. So I asked, does anybody here own a marketing textbook? And they said, no. Have you ever read one? And they said, no. I said, so how are you going to do marketing? So I told them to go and find out the cost of Marketing Management by Philip Kotler. And I bought 11 copies. And I signed every one of them with a small note. Fool I am, for buying this book for you. If you don't read it, fool you are. The brain has 2 sides, eh? There's a left side and a right side. The right side is the creative side. We built our houses in the creative side. And we forgot that there's the other side. Unfortunately, we think that marketing is about creativity. Yes, there's creativity in it. But the reality is that unless there's a balance, what we call a center-mindedness, right, between your analytical side and your creative side, for instance, you're going to struggle. Okay. I think it's a good time for us to just pause, reflect, rethink, and reboot. And that's why I was particularly excited that I was given the opportunity to talk, here, today. And I think as marketers, we need to just reflect on what I've just shared, so far. If the market has changed so dramatically, if the customer has become, so important, if a lot of the old tricks we had, are no longer working because, the kids that we are targeting, for instance, and the other consumers that we're targeting, have significantly more power, then why are we doing, this stuff, the same old way? One thing I think we need to establish is marketing as a discipline, right, is still relevant. I think it's even more relevant today than it was, in the past. But it cannot be the marketing that we are doing. It cannot be the marketing that people like us, grew up with and actually were very, very comfortable with. And I say this with a lot of, just to give you some context. I should be the defender of the old way. Because when I began as brand manager, we had 3 radio stations. We had 2 good TV stations, an NTA, right? Today, you can't even count. Talk less of the fact that the guys are not even watching traditional media. This comes from the Chartered Institute of Marketing. It says that marketing is the management process, responsible for identifying, anticipating, and satisfying customer requirements profitably. It doesn't talk brand here, it doesn't talk advertising, it doesn't talk creativity. And the question I ask you is, which other job in the business is more important than this job? Identifying, anticipating, and satisfying the requirements of customers profitably. For us to be relevant and for us to do our job, right, we must focus on driving business growth. That is the measure, okay? If other things you're doing, right, are not driving this result, then maybe you should change them. My question to you is, which marketing director do you want to be? Which chief marketing officer do you want to be? The one who organizes office party and who is MC, for all the office events? Or the guy who they call to the table when there are serious problems and who they say, no, he's not here today. Hold the meeting. We'll hold it tomorrow when he comes in because we must have his point of view. What should be the role of the CMO? Role number one, customer champion. There's significant amount of data, right? There's significant insights, that, we need to bring to the table so we can deliver superior and personalized customer experiences. Job number two is growth driver. We have to play the leading role, right, in developing we used to call it a business plan. So the annual business plan, the tactical plans, for instance, and the plans that help the business drive, sustainable growth. That is your job. We need to also ensure, that we are the guys who are bringing in new ideas into, the business, okay? And our products and services, because we understand the customers, are actually indeed, innovative and bringing value, to, the business. We're talking today, about, tech fluency. We're talking about digital expertise. We're talking about, people who understand how to manage big data, machine learning, AI, and so on, for instance. We're talking about data analytics. I have no clue what those things, mean. Okay? We have to find a way of bringing those guys into our organization and working collaboratively with them in a cross-functional manner to try and ensure, that we're able to prepare our business to compete, in the future. The guys in Amazon, Google, and co they don't work this way. They work in a very, very different manner completely. And my sense is that if we continue to do marketing how we are used to, for instance, we won't be the guys that are going to choose, They're going to choose other people, and we're going to be confined into dustbin. Three things we need to try and do as we try and move ourselves to be the guys, who are, driving what matters. Obviously, relentlessly safeguard the customer. The customer is at the center of everything that we do. We need to understand, that, look, the only way we will get respect in the business is if we're the guys who understand the customer inside out and who are bringing that value to the table. Okay? We need people to sit down with the CIO, CTO, for instance, and say, how can we use technology, to mine what's important to the customer, and how can we bring those insights to the table so we can shape our products and services? Sit down with the HR person and say, look, by the way, our job is very front-facing. Why do you need a 2-1 or a first class? Why? 2-1 first class, why? It's not a research institute. It's a salesman, for Christ's sakes. And finally, we have to ensure that we make marketing make sense to the C-suite. Half the time, what we're talking about, nobody understands. Metrics, for instance, you can't really take them, to the bank. So we need to step back and say, what else can we look at, for instance, and how can we ensure, that when we talk, people take us seriously, and that we're using language to understand, and they can see the connect, between the investments they make on our behalf, for, the brands and the returns that we get as the organization. What type of CMO are you, and what type should you be? So we've got, three major archetypes. We got the friend. And for a long time, I was a friend, CMOs, actually the most prevalent one. You got a loaner, you got a friend, and you got a unifier. And your guess is as good as mine, who should be, the ideal one. So the loaner is a guy, who is the expert, He understands marketing, he speaks the marketing language, for instance, but he has no friends in the C-suite. The friend is a nice guy, He has, CFO usually is his friend, Sometimes, the MD also is his friend. He speaks the language, he has a swag, but he also, really doesn't, play. He gets away. He gets by because of his relationship. He does his job, but he doesn't really, look after the end-to-end, CX, for instance. He doesn't do a lot of the things that we expect, him to do. The unifier. Next slide, please. Is the guy, that I think, that we should step back and ask ourselves, if we are not this guy, then we're doing something wrong. So this is a guy who is the master at fostering cross-functional collaboration. I think it was Accenture who came out with something called the CMO collaborator. One of the most significant jobs that we have as CMOs is collaboration. Okay? How do we, we're a silo. We don't talk to ourselves. I don't know about where I worked, most of them, we don't talk to ourselves. Even sales and marketing, we don't talk to ourselves. So this is a guy who must say, look, Mr. Salesman, can we talk? Mr. CFO, can we talk? This is my marketing budget. I know it's plenty, but I know you guys are struggling. Can we take this portion and pack it so we can plug that hole? But I need you to support me to do something else that I think will help us drive sales. Mr. Salesman, numbers are down. How can we move some of this media budget into a more, direct marketing, drive? Or into a more, a glass investment, for instance, if you're in the beverage business, or more packaging. You have to be the guy who can go across the aisle and ensure you're doing deals to try and move what matters. Unifiers can be made. Some people are natural with numbers, so, I, have a background in the arts. I used to draw, so I should like, the creative side. But I had to learn, to be relevant in this space. So this slide gives you a sense for what are the capabilities you require on the marketing side, and what are the enablers that you require, right? So you've got things like strategy and insights here. You've got things like creative and content. You've got things like media and channel activation. You've got customer experience and personalization. You've got things like measurement, and marketing ROI. And you've got things like product and pricing. So those are the core, capabilities that marketers should have. Unfortunately, we spend almost all of our time, in that space. And you've got to ask yourself, there's more to what I do, than just those two. And to be relevant in today's marketplace, you have to do those things. You got talent and agency management, and you also got data, and technology, becoming enablers, for what we do. This is a very interesting slide. Sadly, a lot of us still live in this world where we have a very linear, relationship. So I send a brief. Agency will do strategy, and they will come back to me with a revert. Then we will adjust it. Then we will deliver it. And that's how we basically work with our partners. That's what today's world looks like, where marketing sits at the center, okay? And within the internal ecosystem, you've got customer service, sales, insights, and procurement. And you can see the lines are going, are two ways, for instance. But significantly, you have search agency, you have analytics and targeting, you've got media agency, you've got creative agency, you've got digital agency, you've got CMS provider, you've got portals and platforms, you've got ad networks, you've got mobile agency, you've got data production. That's the new ecosystem. And Chief, there's no way you can know all those things. So understand that you need to bring in partners who have capabilities in these areas, for instance, who can support you. Trying to be Superman, for instance, it's not going to work. And for the guys who succeed are the guys who are able to move from this ecosystem, very linear, into that, where you're bringing in the best experts to the table.